Welcome to Daddy Issues. Conversations with Dads. A podcast from Fathers and Families Center of Indianapolis, Indiana. Larry, what's going on with Fathers and Families Center? And Matt, I'm not sure you might be familiar. So Fathers and Families, Larry, you've been the president now for, is it 5 years?
For 3 years. 3 years.
Three.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me what the latest is with you guys.
Well, we just announced that we have a new partnership with Christian Theological Seminary, CTS, for them to offer counseling to the men we serve at substantially discounted rates. When most people think of us, they think about getting the men jobs. So, Pastor, just for the sake of context, when the men get to us, they have an average income of just $11,000 annually, right, a year. So they don't pay anything to come. In fact, we pay them. We give them a stipend for $100 a week for 3 weeks to come to what we call our Strong Fathers program. It's a 3-week class, and then after that, they can apply for a job with one of our 30 or so employer partners. They go through certification training, so all the skilled trades, forklift driving, CDL, construction. We have a construction training center with Eastern Star Church, my church, at our 30th Street location. Or if they want to become an entrepreneur, we tell them to bring us a serious business plan. If we approve it, we pay their fees to the Secretary of State, give them a new laptop, and then our VP of Programs and Partnerships, Corey Parchman, becomes their entrepreneur coach. Corey's a former NFL player, serial entrepreneur, doesn't have to work, right? He's with our organization because he believes in the mission so much. So about half the men we serve were formerly incarcerated. They're returning citizens. Our recidivism rate is just 6.7%. To put that in context, the recidivism rate for Marion County overall is 40 to 45%, depending on whose numbers you believe. And so ours is in the single digits. And that goes back to my first point, which is, the job is necessary, but it's not sufficient. We have a holistic approach to serving these men, and that includes things like counseling for emotional mental health. If you need counseling for substance abuse challenges, we do that as well. We go to the penal institutions. We work with men who are fewer than 90 days from being released. We help them reintegrate back into society, the workforce, and most importantly, back into their families. Additionally, we just signed an agreement with a national researcher who's been in the fatherhood space for about 30 years. We're going to begin to offer a curriculum to men. We'll call them middle class to upper income men, because what we've learned in our experience, and the data will back this up, is that irrespective of any demographic, right, class, race, age, married, divorced, whatever your religion is, or if you're not religious, dads are struggling. That's not to downplay at all what moms go through, but dads just across any demographic you can think of are really struggling. And so whereas the lower income men, they are our core audience, but we want to serve all fathers irrespective of their income or background. And so we should be able to do that in a couple of months, beginning in a couple of months. And then finally, hopefully we're going to be signing a new lease here soon to move out of our current building, which we've been in for more than 25 years, but we've outgrown it both literally and figuratively, and into a larger space that we're going to lease. And so it's also a more family-friendly building. I think, as Jason knows, the building that we're in years ago, it began as WIBC. Then it became Butler University's radio and TV stations. So it's not built for doing family-friendly activities. We're going to move hopefully one block up. So those are 3 exciting things that are going on in our organization.
Very cool. North Meridian.
Illinois. Illinois. 28th and Illinois.
Illinois. Right, right.
Yep.
It does. It feels like there's something in these walls. This used to be a radio station. Yeah. So it's always great to see, man, you guys are rocking. And I say that not just as your podcast partner and friend, but like you are putting out there the things that are happening every day, and it's impressive. And I'm proud to say, oh, look, I know those guys. I'm kind of part of that. I just love what you guys do. And so I also wanted to just maybe bounce that back to say again, man, how much of a challenge it is, no matter what segment of society you come from. Being a father is a unique challenge, and man, it's not easy. It's the most rewarding thing, of course, but like, what are some things, not as a pastor, But what are some things as, father of 2 young boys that, that keeps you up at night or that stresses you out about how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna get these guys ready to be men?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's hard, and I appreciate Larry, what you shared and what your organization does of like connecting fathers, because I do think it can be hard to know like who to go to as a young dad and to talk with and to try to navigate all the different challenges that come, because I do think you know with my two little boys, we talk to them a lot about the influences of not just relationships and how important it is to build good relationships with others who are gonna help you and guide you in a healthy way,
Mm,
uh, because there's a lot of bad influences out there, of course, and that's true in any school, any context, wherever you are. But also then the other influences of things like technology, which is only going to grow, and that's something that it's amazing. My 6-year-old, knows how to use my password to try to get on my phone,
mm.
to look things up, or to use the computer or iPad or whatever, and he's known how to do that, pretty much his entire life, and technology is such a part of his life. So it's not just like one-on-one relationships anymore. It's really the other outside influences that are global that can influence our kids. And so, my wife and I talk a lot about that and what's appropriate for their ages. We want them to be able to explore and to learn, but in a healthy way. And that's hard to navigate these things.
Mhm. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's a great point. Hard to navigate. So, as y'all all dads know, this balance between trying to keep your kids safe and not closing them off completely
Mhm.
from the world. I mean, that's not a new challenge, but I think that to your point, Pastor, in the age of technology that we're in, increasingly difficult, right? And I think about my granddaughter, 4 years old, when she tells her mom and dad that she wants to talk to. I'm G-Paul. I told my daughter I won't be grand anything. So I'm G-Paul. So she says I want to talk to G-Paul, and what she means is if they will call me on the phone, she'll say no, I want to see his face, and so it's through the Facebook app. We'll talk that way because she says I want to see his face, right? And so obviously that I think they're called digital natives now. They just grew up with all this stuff,
Yep.
and it is promising technology. Obviously, there are a lot of great uses, AI and all that, but it can also be very very scary at the same time.
Mhm. So how's the school situation? Do they come home with different, social anxieties or situations to solve? "Hey, dad, this happened at school. What do we do?" How's everything there?
Yeah, I mean, occasionally, yeah. I mean, and I think it's a part of that challenge. They need somebody to come home and to talk through things they heard at school, of course,
Mm,
and every family has different expectations on use of technology or other things, video games or other things, and
mhm,
and so you have to kind of walk with the boys and talking with
mhm,
them and learning about where they're coming from as you kind of share what's appropriate or not, and explain
mm,
the kind of the why behind it. They're smart kids, and I feel like kids are getting smarter and they're growing up faster in that sense. Like
mhm,
they're
mhm,
aware of things, and so as a parent, it's like I have to slow down myself and try to help myself
mm.
understand where they're coming from or what they're experiencing. 'Cause it's gonna be something new every day.
Well, I think that was probably true for us growing up too, because our parents must have felt similar ways to be like they're growing up fast. Or maybe they thought growing up or out of control or whatever. But like, I think we all are getting better generationally. We're younger than our fathers were at our age, in terms of health and the way we look and act. And I think just overall, we have more access to information, so could argue, more aware of things. Our kids, there's no question, they're way smarter than us, all of them. And that's not even for a debate. I think they've been given like better memory chips and better functioning processors, right? And that's great. But then there's that transition Larry knows from having an adult daughter and now two young adults, college age, and my son's 21, that there's an axis that shifts when they start being, you're coexisting as an adult in your world. And You'll see this too. Well, you'll see this when you get older. But like, yeah, it'll be sooner than you think where they start having their own individual thoughts, and it's insanely off-putting, right? It's uncomfortable because I'm the boss here. But yeah, you just roll with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
do your best. I'm sorry, Pastor. Go ahead, please.
Oh no, yeah, I was just gonna say, I do have two very strong-willed boys, and
Yeah,
they're very kind and good boys, but they're very strong-willed, which can also mean they want certain things, and you have to navigate that and learn kind of regulating emotions and all that. I'm still learning that on a daily and when I'm with them hourly
sure.
basis, But the opportunity for growth has been great, as an individual for me, and also for the boys of walking with them and learning and growing and.
This is Daddy Issues. We'll be right back.
Your day moves fast. Your news should too. That's why there's a new and improved Wish TV app bringing you more local news, breaking alerts, live streaming, weather forecast, radar, and Indiana sports all in one place. Customize your news feed to see the stories that matter most to you and get the information you need when you need it. Download the new and improved Wish TV app today on iOS or Android and take News 8 with you everywhere.
And now, let's get back to Daddy Issues.
I remember when I was preparing to have our first boy when I was at Meridian Street, and one of the staff people I worked with at the church, she had a boy who was out of college, and she made it a point to say, every part is the best part. So when they're a baby, hold them and say this is the best part. When they're a toddler, walk with them and say this is the best part. Where high school, college, and she was seeing her son starting to excel at his career at that point. And I've held on to that. Of just like, even in the midst of the challenges that come and my you know raising the temperature too much or matching the temperature in the room and I'm not regulating well, to try to remember, like, even in the midst of all that, this moment, this is the best. This is the best moment. That's been
Hmm.
really helpful, I think, to put parenting in perspective for me.
Yeah, I absolutely
That's
agree.
really good. I just think that's so magical because it's simple, but if you just kind of keep that in mind and just, you know what? I thought that was the best, but this is the
Yeah,
best. It centers you in the moment too.
awesome.
I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. I'm gonna have to definitely have to use that. And in terms of kids being smarter, what I like to say is that the problem is not that my kids are smarter than I am; it's that they know they are. you know,
Yeah.
and try to navigate that. Then my middle one in particular, Pastor, you're talking about strong-willed. My the other two are as well, but the middle one, the 20-year-old, she's 20 and now junior in college. I call her a 5'1", 99-pound bully. She just, she has no shyness about saying whatever's on her mind. Has always been that way. And, she's good. She's great. We have a strong relationship, especially when she went off to college and didn't feel that she was under, our thumbs anymore. And I'll give a quick example. I was out of the country in Ghana a couple of years ago, and I was posting pictures or something online, and she messaged me and said, "You need to stop that right now." I'm like, what are you talking about? People don't need to know you're out of the country. They can break in your house. I said, well, first of all, I said, my alarm is on. The police will be there, 2 or 3 minutes. I don't care. You just need to take it. So she,
Mm.
she
Yeah.
has, sometimes I do have to remind all three of them at some point, I'm still the parent, right?
Yeah, but that you were feeling the earth
Yeah,
move under your feet. The axis was shifting right
absolutely.
then. She was in charge. She was assuming control.
Absolutely. You need to, I mean, it sounds like just something that I would have told her years ago. You need to take that
Yeah,
down right now, right? It's like, well, and,
right.
she did that out of love and concern. But, it certainly wasn't couched as a request. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Strong-willed.
yes.
Good stuff. I like also something I heard along those same lines that talking about this is the best time. I heard a celebrity say the other day talking about how his kids will remember him as the regular, everyday weirdo in the
Mm,
house. Not the one who did this famous thing or that famous thing or the way that the world knows him, but that he made this goofy face one day at breakfast or the stupid sweatpants he used to wear around the house. And those are the moments that define who you are. If you think about our parents, and loved ones who have gone before us, and all those things. Yeah, those are the things I remember.
Yeah.
Those little tiny moments where it's like, and I talk about that with my mom sometimes, and I'll say like, "Do you remember one time?" And she'll have no recollection, but to me, it was this little moment
Hmm.
that somehow stuck. I don't know why,
Hmm.
and so I keep that in mind too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just I think about like when the kids are toddlers and you buy all this stuff for Christmas or their birthdays or whatever, and then all they do is sit there and play with the box, right? It's not
Yeah,
they don't care about the stuff. I mean,
yeah,
they may come along and say, when they're older, I want a video game or a phone or whatever it is, but for the most part, it's the experience, it's the exploration, and the relationship building and all that. It's not the stuff. And some, especially as someone who grew up, grew up on the east side of Indianapolis, 34th and Emerson, there wasn't a lot of extra, right? But I always tell people I didn't realize I was poor until I got to college and I was around a lot of rich people, and I'm like, oh my God, I guess I was poor
yeah,
growing up, but I never, felt like that. My grandmother used to say that we were spoiled, but we were spoiled with love, and that is absolutely the case.
hmm,
Yeah, I feel like,
yes,
I've learned over the years as a pastor that, the vast majority of ministry is simply showing up,
Hmm.
you know, being present, and I think that's true in parenthood too, that you just have to keep showing up and keep being fully present to your kids, and I'm trying my best to not just be present, but to be fully present, because there's a time where I can be, it's been a long day at church or doing ministry or whatever, and I get home, I'm just exhausted and I can be there, but I'm not necessarily present. And so I'm
hmm,
still working on how do I, put the phone down? How do I,
yeah.
put my thoughts down? How do I put the, negative kind of thoughts or energy that I'm bringing? How do I leave those behind? Just focus on my boys, being fully present with them. And
Hmm.
I'm not saying, I don't have that down. I'm not perfect at that, but it's something I'm continually working on and striving toward.
Yeah, I don't think you have to be a pastor to have a similar feeling to that.
Yeah,
Anyone
sure.
who has an active work life and then stresses of just everything, but just to be present and whatever that means for you, putting that phone down or just centering yourself and being in that moment. That's a daily thing. That's a daily thing that like has, and we get better at it, but then all of a sudden you forget. And so, I mean, it's a muscle you have to like strengthen
Right.
and get good at. I would also recommend, and this is not for today, but like I know your boys are young and I don't want to freak you out, but we do have an episode earlier in our catalog in this podcast of having the talk with your son. So whenever that time comes, if you want to get some insight, I don't know if we had any wisdom, but it's something we wanted to put into the topic because man, that's another thing. You got to be thinking about that, right?
Right.
It just that's part of being a dad, part of and somehow that falls to us with boys. Oh, I guess I'll be the one to have that talk.
I'll whip
Uh,
it up. So yeah, that's important. So yeah.
you got that that's in your future, and so you got that to look forward to. After that, it's all gravy. Once you have the talk, no problem.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be prepared for the eye rolls.
Sure.
Oh, it is something you just gotta, like, get through the
Power
moment.
through it.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, we mentioned, being, obviously we've talked about being a pastor and so on. As we're, navigating, to use your word I like so much, some pretty difficult times in the country and in the world, what wisdom do you have to share for, this broader congregation of people who might be listening, whether they're believers or not, but in particular for believers like Jason and I are, what do you share in your messages with your congregation as to how to navigate this world today?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I think it's something we're all wrestling with, and I do think I continue to try to encourage and inspire and invite our congregation and others to respond to everything that's happening by, being active, by, engaging in serving and getting to know your neighbor. Just, kind of going back to the very basics, right? Just how do we love our neighbor and how do we get to know our neighbor? How do we respect our neighbor? How do we, listen? How do we, serve and all of those different things? And so I think, not letting all the outside noise bring us down to the point of hopelessness. That there's still a lot of hope, and we can be the bearers of hope if we choose to be in a world that is absolutely crazy. And it seems like every day the news is filled with something new uh, that it's almost hard to believe. And I can choose to let it get me down, and sometimes it does. But I think, if I respond with love, if I respond with hope, if I respond with actions, that I know I'm doing my share to try to make the world a better place.
This is Daddy Issues. We'll be right back after this short break. And now back to the show.
Yeah, I like that focus on hope. As Jason knows, and if you follow me on Facebook, you all know I'm extremely shy about my opinions.
I wish you'd come out of your shell, bro.
I'm trying to grow so I can really express myself. But in all seriousness, to your point about holding on to hope, that is, and so two things: one, holding on to hope, and then, as you said earlier, trying to sort of keep the distractions from getting you to depression, because it can, that's something, just in all honesty, I need to get better at, just sort of not letting the distractions get to me, and just focus on what it is that I need to do. So
Yeah, it's a daily, kind of a daily mantra or a reminder. I've had conversations that echo similar thoughts to where it's like control what you can control. I remember a few months ago when we saw that the world was about to go in a certain direction. My friends and I were like, well, what are we going to do? Let's focus on the good things that we can control. Let's focus on maybe a small service habit that we can do. That's something about, whether it's Gleaners, whether it's a neighbor that we can befriend, that we can show the love of Christ in a certain way, or to just do something different that will intentionally put out positivity into the world. Okay, so again, we were like, and I think now it's even more ramped up, the panic and the world we live in, without specifying. We know what we mean. I just love that so much, because it will not only help by putting out goodness into the world, but it calms me down.
mm,
It helps me to have a better day and keeps me out of that hopeless mentality, because, bro, every day, every day this is a struggle. And so having an adult son now who has his own opinions and is a very thoughtful young man, you know, I want to be an example for him, to be thoughtful and intentionally kind and all those things, to not be reactionary
mhm,
and to not speak too much, but to pick my spots, right? And what I mean by that is kind of an allusion to Larry and I got to be, we've been friends for years, but then especially during the 2020 era, we bonded a little bit more on social media. And then I had to kind of put boundaries up for myself, because I was putting out too much on social media, and had to do some self-care to pull it back and say, I don't have to respond to everything,
Man.
right?
Yeah, you have to find
That
a
is,
way to engage and determine like how much is too much, and when you need to, as you said, Jason, is kind of pull back and set some
yeah,
boundaries around it. And I do think, like we need to learn the power of trying to understand another, and I think we don't spend enough time really kind of listening to each other. And I do preach about that
mhm,
often. And it's hard because both parties need to be willing to have a conversation and learn and listen, and that makes it really difficult when another person doesn't want to enter in that sort of conversation. But I do think it's really important in our culture today is to try to understand another person, share stories, rather than just saying you believe a certain thing and we don't have to be in a relationship.
mhm.
So I think it's really easy just to kind of throw people away in
yeah.
that sense, right? So
And that idea, who's the quote? My goal is to understand rather than to be understood. Yeah,
Yeah, it's one of
gotta do it.
Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, right? Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
There you
Yeah.
go. Thank you.
Mhm.
Nice. Well, thank you for the conversation on this evening, where, you know what, there's a lot of things we could be doing, and we wanted to have a podcast where we just kind of come alongside other men who are fighting the good fight, trying to do the best they can with what we have, and to encourage each other to be the best dad we can. There's nothing like it. It's the best thing ever, but it's hard. So we need each other.
Amen.
Yep. Thanks for doing the 30 days of catch. And once again, what's that? way to get in touch there? Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook 30 Days of Catch for Gleaner's Food Bank of Indiana. You can go to give.gleaners.org/catch2025 to learn more. Yeah, and I do have one question really quick for Larry.
Sure.
Larry, you want to play catch?
Absolutely. Would love to.
That would be awesome. Yeah. It's as simple as that, Jason, right? I mean, I asked Jason a couple years ago, hey, Jason, want to play catch? Absolutely. So Larry, I'd love to play catch with you. And, I've enjoyed the conversation with you both tonight, but I'd love to
Likewise.
and get to know you a little bit more as well. So that'd be awesome.
Thank you so much.
Great.
All right.
Have a great night, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Pastor, see you soon. Larry, talk to you soon, brother.
Again.
Thanks for listening to Daddy Issues. Be sure to connect with us on social media. Feel free to email us, dads@thedaddyissuespodcast.com. Daddy Issues is a podcast from the Fathers and Family Center of Indianapolis, Indiana. To learn more about the programs of Fathers and Family Center, visit fathersandfamilycenter.org.